Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 3 of the Q&A, so let me get my hat on and let's get to this first question. If one is having trouble sleeping due to stress, would it be a good idea to up their calories to help with recovery, or should one stay consistent on their cut, maintain strength as much as possible until the stress dies down? I've got about 15 pounds of fat to lose, and I am about 2/3 through the cutting version of your novice program. I almost should make a separate video on this, and I probably will later this week. All right, brother, if you are cutting and your stress is preventing you from getting sleep, you need to stop cutting. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, what are you talking about? If he's got 15 pounds to lose, he needs to lose those 15 pounds. But let me explain how this works. Stress and lack of sleep are extremely catabolic, all right? They're extremely stressful to your body additionally. Stress is a killer. All right, stress is a killer. Reducing calories puts additional stress on your body. You are training and lifting weights on reduced calories. That impedes recovery. I mean, training too hard on reduced calories can actually cause you problems. That can cause you to wear your body down. It can start to affect you psychologically. It can affect you negatively in a lot of ways. I mean, there are obviously overall health benefits to losing fat if you have extra fat to lose. But there is a trade-off there. It can be stressful in your body. It can lower immune system, everything else. Stress can do these things also. Lack of sleep can do these things also. So you're now compiling 3 factors together that can negatively impact your health, can negatively impact your muscle mass, can negatively impact your immune system. So continuing to try to lose body fat while you are getting not enough sleep due to stress is a very good way to lose muscle. It's a very good way to get physically sick. So I'm going to recommend to most people, unless you have a really legitimate, valid reason to be losing weight and cutting body fat, when you are stressed is a very, very fast way to lose muscle mass. And I could get into my own personal anecdotes, but I'll save that for another video. All I'm going to basically say there is repeat the fact that if you are in this situation, you need to stop cutting till the stressful situation is resolved. You can get caught back up on your sleep so that you can actually lose body fat without losing muscle mass and without really potentially harming your health, immune system, everything else. Time to end your cut, brother. All right, next question. What are your thoughts on the government treating morbid obesity / anorexia like they would for someone who threatens to kill themselves? 2/3 of the U.S. population is overweight, and at what point does the government need to put their foot in the sand and given it puts a burden on our tax dollars and start funding eating disorder rehabilitation for those who have not gained X amount of weight on a physically supervised diet by a certain time period? Sorry for the long questions. This is going to be a very complex question. I guess the best way to put this is it really depends upon what sort of society you actually want to have. I tend to lean in the direction of libertarianism, which means I don't like government interference in people's lives. I don't like government taxing any more than it has to or spending any more than it has to. But you know what? That's my personal politics. But that's the question that you have to answer in order to answer this question. You've got to figure out your personal politics. What do you believe in? Because if you believe in government assisted healthcare, meaning you believe in socialized medicine, you believe that the taxpayer should pay taxes directly towards the medical treatment of the whole nation, then enacting a policy makes sense because essentially your health becomes government subsidized. Your health becomes a burden to the taxpayer. Your health becomes a responsibility of the taxpayer, which means you no longer technically own your health anymore. The government, the state, and the taxpayer own your health. In which case, that makes a lot of sense to enforce that sort of thing. I mean, it makes a ton of sense to enforce physical health in a system to where the taxpayer is burdened by people's poor health. And there have been some extreme systems even implemented towards that in the past. We're not going to get into all that, but you can very quickly find yourself getting into fascism with that. Because fascism starts to make a lot of sense when you create that situation, at least if you're going to take it to the furthest extremes. I personally am of the opinion that people should be free to do as they please. That if someone wants to be obese and have a terrible lifestyle, that's fine. That should be their personal choice to do it. But I don't think that anyone who does should be receiving a single penny from the taxpayer to support their lifestyle. And that's the big difference. That's the difference. So that comes down to what you see as people's personal rights regarding fitness, what you see as far as government involvement, taxpayer involvement, universal health care, things like that. I just don't believe in governments subsidizing poor choices, which means that if you were going to do a system like that, I think it becomes fair to say that people who make that choice shouldn't be enrolled in any sort of universal health care, meaning you make the choice to be morbidly obese, to not get help for it. That's fine. I don't think it should be forced on the individual, but I think that person should be excluded from any tax dollars to subsidize their poor health choices. You know, I don't think that any tax money should be spent towards them at all. They made the choice to cause self-inflicted diseases upon themselves, and it should be their personal burden to deal with, not anybody else's. It's just as simple as that, because this comes down to personal choice. And guys, that's really what health and fitness is. Health and fitness is a personal choice that we all make. It's your personal lifestyle choices, and I think that we as individuals have a right to that. We have a right to our own self-determinism. And obviously most people watching a fitness channel have obviously made the conscious choice to say, you know what, I want to be fit and healthy. I'm going to do things to help my health. This is important to me. This is what I want to do. And so more power to you, because that's what I encourage people to do. But I don't believe in taking those personal choices away from people. I'm just not a big believer in government being involved in the fine details of our lives. All right, next question. Jason, what do you think about a Bulgarian type training for hypertrophy? I had in mind of training 6 times a week, 2 to 3 exercises only, in the rep range of 10 to 12, maybe 1 set in the morning, 1 in the evening, with a weight really low and then build up from there. All right, I had at least 3 similar questions, and this is the one that I chose. I've covered this a lot in the past. Yeah, it's totally doable. It's possible to use high-frequency everyday training, even in what people call the hypertrophy rep range. And when we say the hypertrophy rep range, what we really mean is not that it causes more muscle growth. It's that it has the potential to cause the most muscle growth with the least amount of sets. Meaning when you're working in the 10 to 12 rep range, you can induce a lot of muscle growth off of a single set. And I hope that's what you're implying here, because Bulgarian training is a single set. It is a single working rep, meaning you build up to a training max and you basically build to a max. You might do some warm-ups getting up there, but you build to a single rep on a training max. So if you wanted to implement something similar for hypertrophy, yeah, it needs to be 1 set. You don't need to be doing multiple sets of squats and deadlifts and whatever every single day. Not going to work. But if you wanted to try this sort of system, you could do it. I just don't think that it works better than full body 3 days a week for hypertrophy. And that's why I don't always recommend it. It's viable, but I don't think for most people they're going to see any more muscle growth than if they did 3 full body workouts with multiple sets every week. I just don't think they're going to see better gains. Is it possible that some people genetically will? Yes. Is it possible to gain a little more strength through the higher frequency through motor unit learning? Yes. But in terms of a hypertrophy-specific context, I think only a minority of people genetically, due to their personal response and everything to training, are actually going to see more muscle growth from it. But you might be one of those people. I can't say that for you. But I don't do it as a general recommendation, because I think most people will be able to gain maximum muscle size off of a full body system 3 days a week. I think only a tiny minority of people are going to benefit from pushing the frequency further beyond that purely for size. Strength is a different matter. All right, next question. How much weight, counting the bar, should the average young adult male have to lift on the floor press to signal that he is out of the novice phase and into the intermediate? All right, pretty simple question. That gets asked a lot because there are some people who are like, I don't do the bench press, I do the floor press for whatever reason. I don't have access to a good bench, I don't want to deal with spotters. The floor press takes leg drive out of it more. All of that has to be factored into the answer. What I would say to people is, because of those facts, if you're skilled at the bench, you are going to learn to use leg drive correctly and everything, even on a pause bench. So I usually tell people you should be doing 225 pounds or around 100 kilos if you don't use standard international. 4 reps. You should be able to do a few reps, 2 reps, 5 reps, something in that range, to be a true intermediate for most healthy males in the average height range. That's usually what I recommend for ending my novice program. But if someone did the floor press instead, I would say it probably needs to be about 10% lower. So somewhere around 200, 205 pounds or low 90 kilos, 92, 93 kilos, something in that range. Now, some people will point out, well, the range of motion is shorter. Not always. Depends on how big your chest is, how big your torso is. For me, I can touch my chest with the floor press. So that's not actually a problem. It depends upon your overall size when we start talking about range of motion difference. However, the fact of the matter is, even for people who it is a shorter range of motion, because it's forcing a hard dead stop at the bottom of the exercise, and that is still close enough to the chest that that's a lot of people's close to their sticking point, that you're still probably not going to be able to lift as much weight on a floor press as you are on a regular bench press. And it's not just because of the hard stop guaranteed at the bottom. It has to do with the fact that a floor press done correctly, you can't use any leg drive. You can't use anything to pop the weight out of the bottom to get it started. You're forced to use basically your pectorals and your anterior deltoids to get the weight started. And that is going to affect the overall amount of the lift. So it's going to be about 10% less than what I recommend for the flat bench. To be out of that phase. And if you wanted to implement the floor press, because that's what you have available in my novice program, that's where I would change the numbers to. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.